as senior personnel, you're senior responsible, you've got budgets and benchmarks, you need to have good staff working for you. So the question now would be is, now we're talking about the soft side, you know, the wetware. We've talked the hardware, we've talked the software, now it's the wetware. Those humans, those problematic humans. How do you go about selecting personnel? Where do you find them? Is it easier to take somebody who's been a banker, convert them into an agricultural lender by training and certification programs? Or is it, as we heard earlier, a better structure to take agronomists and agricultural people and turn them into bankers?
Yeah, we have 5 departments under agricultural faculties in Turkey. And one of them is the Department of Agricultural Economy. So it's easy for us to turn agricultural economists to agricultural bankers. But we have problems with the other departments. Since they know cows very well, they know the crop very well, but they don't know or they don't want to get profit on the money, to deal with money. Yeah, in our first experience, we have some difficulties in that. But since a lot of banks started to establish agricultural banking units, people was aware that there's an opportunity to be a banker if you know agriculture also. So people started to prepare their minds to be a banker also. The agronomists started to dream to be a banker also. And now we get a progress on this. And now the requirement to be an agricultural banker is to be a graduate from an agricultural engineering or to be graduated from economics or management studies and having a background experience on agriculture. It doesn't differ if you work for an agricultural dealer, for example. We welcome everybody that has deals with farmers.
I would take it like there are 2 parts of this discussion. One, how do we select the people for rural banking? And the other part is the eternal debate of a banker converging into an agronomist or an agronomist converging into a banker. I think no, I think it can be managed. It depends. So as far as the selection is concerned, you know, there are multiple channels for us. In our country, we have, like any other country, we have specific specialized agriculture universities, whereby we go and hold university fairs, job fairs in the universities. At the same time, we have universities in the rural areas which are offering business degrees other than rural or agronomy degrees. So we also go there and hold these job fairs. Then we do hire people through the headhunters. We do receive, because of a large branch network, we are almost there on every corner, even in the remotest location in Pakistan. We do get a lot of unsolicited resumes, and we try to ensure that if there is even a slightest significance of that resume to what we want to do, we will at least call that person for an interview. So these are the multiple channels that we use. So we do not really find a challenge in selecting these people. One thing that I would want to share in selection is, during the conference, I have a colleague, Habib Shah, he's sitting here, and we were discussing this with some other audience members, that about the process of selection. We started using technology to select people. And that technology was that we were sitting in the head office, and there's a video con, and the other guy is sitting 1,000 kilometers away, and we evaluate that person. We realized that the sample that we hired through VideoCon was unfortunately much inferior to the team members that we hired by directly interviewing them. And we realized, nothing against VideoCons, but we realized that while evaluating a person, it is very important to actually understand how that person enters into the room, what are the facial expressions, how is he or she behaving. It can be debatable, but in our case, we actually said, no more VideoCons for the interviews, and now we are going to physically test or interview that person. And before the interview, there is a written test as well. That's mandatory for everybody. That's a basic IQ test. So that's how we do the selection part. Now, coming back to the debate, we do hire a mix of people. So we have agronomists, we have business graduates, we have people who have degrees in economics. The key thing remains that it depends on the strength of that individual, whether that individual can take a leadership role or not. Generally, we have observed, so nothing against agronomists, but generally we have observed that agronomists tend to be more technical, they tend to be more research oriented, and they tend to be weak in their leadership skills. At least that is true in our part of the world. So I would say that on an exceptional basis, there are agronomists who have been able to come to the leadership positions, but mostly it is the people who have business degrees and who have learned the basics of agriculture banking who are at the leadership positions. So again, say for example, there is a front-end loan officer. That person is an agronomist, and that guy is performing. But we realize that the person is weak in terms of, say, the interpersonal skills for leadership, and it's not easy for that person to manage a team. So that person will have a progression of a functional development. So the potential would be to grow in the same function, and whereas a person who is probably not as strong technically in agriculture, but much more stronger in terms of the sales skills, in terms of time management, in terms of growing, so that person will have a completely different potential, and that person probably can take him over in leadership roles.
We run a center of excellence, which is more of a knowledge base, and then also support a front line. So, but the skills you require are different. In the knowledge base, those are predominantly agriculture economists, but again, not every agriculture economist can run a sales team or can sit out to try and sell something. And agriculture, he will fully understand the market, but ask him to try and bring on a client, that's like asking him to do the impossible. So we've got to cater for that. So then in terms of our recruitment, we recruit pure agriculture economists to support the knowledge base and do the analysis and see who can develop into a salesperson, and know that some cannot develop into salespeople and will always be within the knowledge base and help support that area from a risk mitigation. And that is also good because we require those as well to go and do the analysis independently and fully understand the market and make decisions that are really not influenced by any other aspect. But then we also need people on the front line, the relationship managers, that can actually walk to a managing director, CEO, or can also walk to a farmer. So that's also a different combination or different type of person that you'd require. So we then also, so in terms of recruitment, we have a graduate program where we bring in fresh graduates from university and try and get them to mix with the team that we have for learning while you work. But we also have an effort in recruitment to try and recruit from the industry, meaning that we'll try and recruit, for example, someone working in the sugar industry on the outgrower side, because he then brings knowledge that we'll bring within our team of fully understanding actually what happens within a sugar operation, a tea factory, so that then we build a core knowledge around that. Take, for example, in South Africa, so we'll have someone specializing in the wine industry because he has a good understanding in the wine industry, then he's able to help us predict what will happen and how we can manage that industry. So we have someone who has good experience from forestry. So that's something that you've got to build in. So, and you bring that and marry it with the fresh graduates that come in to try and build a team that has a good view or a good approach in terms of to try and build that knowledge base. But it is a process that keeps changing in terms of where you recruit from and how you adapt based on the needs that you require.
Thank you.
Personally, I've been doing a lot of introspection on this aspect. Now that we are a 2,000 plus strong team, 10,500 crores, divide by 60 to get it in US dollars, and growing at almost 60% year on year. It's a key challenge. And a couple of points that I figured out is, as bankers, we are very paper driven. We need documents. That doesn't apply in agriculture. You don't have papers. So it's not a debate between agriculturists or bankers. What you need is a businessman out there, a street smart guy, a guy who would understand the farmer's business and he would understand his own business. So, what makes the farmer earn his money and how does he earn money for the bank,
Yes.
right? And you build your processes such that the process or the environment in which he works keeps the train on the rails as far as regulation, as far as fraud and these kind of things are concerned. So you have to have a very strong process behind it so that the newcomers there who are street smart and generally when you get street smart guys, they're out to bend a few rules here and there. So you want to keep a control on that as well.
Yeah.
Because theoretical training, to my mind, a week's theory would give them 10% of the knowledge they need really on the ground. They need to get down there, dirty their hands, burn their fingers. So how do we get to this kind of a person? What we have outside this layer of feet on the street, we have another layer of contractual people who are on contract, 2 years, 3 years contracts. They could be graduates, undergraduates. They're local people from the villages when we go in. So you're mixing up your fixed and variable costs. Remember, in this business, you don't want to take on too much fixed costs. You don't want to take on full-time relationship managers if a geography is not going to be productive. So we have a set of contractual staff, and they become a pipeline for the main bank staff. So we pick up the street smart guys from there. Some may be agronomists, some may be just plain graduates. But in India, to be honest, we're spoiled for choices because in some way or the other, everyone has a farmer in the family or is staying close to agricultural land. A grandfather would have been farming, or his father still owns a property somewhere, and there's farmland over there. So to that extent, we are spoiled for those choices. But this is pretty much the process that we have worked on. The second point is you need to make money to attract talent, because if you don't benchmark yourself with other businesses within the bank, you don't want these guys to have a lag in their promotions or a slightly lower bonuses and things like that, because then they would look for jobs outside agriculture in other banks, and you would have a very high attrition, and that's going to cost you a lot. So you have to balance that to be able to attract the right kind of people and keep them there. When you have an aggressive target, you need to balance this out very carefully. Otherwise, the important thing here also to remember is, because agriculture is so cash-driven in India, putting out a new person there, or if somebody resigns, and it takes you 3 months to get a new person in there, and if those 3 months happen to be the harvest cycle, you're not going to be able to collect from those customers during those 3 months, and that book is going to look bad. It's going to look as if all those customers have gone delinquent. Because expect a new guy to find some farmer down some country road to his village, and he's got to reach out to so many hundreds of them in a short period of time. It's not possible. So you have to keep the engine going, keep the wheels turning, and you have to figure out these things for yourself.